The Forbidden Zone awakens. The deep space listening station floated on the edge of darkness, far from any star. Its crew lived in silence most days. Only the hum of machines keeping them company. They watched for signals, any sign of movement. Near the most dangerous place in the galaxy, the Forbidden Zone. For thousands of years, no ship had returned from there. The zone was a black scar in space, filled with strange energy storms and wrecks of ancient fleets. Some believed it was cursed. Others thought it was alive. Either way, no one went in and came back out. But today, something was different. A soft alarm broke the still air. The signal. Officer, a young alien with silver eyes, leaned closer to her console. Her hands shook as she checked the readings again. Commander, you need to see this, she whispered. Commander Thale, a tall, scarred veteran of the patrol, walked over. His eyes narrowed as he studied the screen. The signal was faint, pulsing in a strange rhythm. At first, it looked like random noise. But then the pattern became clear, 3 short bursts. One long, 2 short. It was human. The room fell silent. Even the hum of the machines seemed to fade. No one here had ever seen a human ship near the Forbidden Zone. Humans were explorers. Yes, but reckless ones. They had vanished from this part of the galaxy centuries ago. Only old war stories remained. Is this real? One officer asked. Could be a trick. Another muttered. But the signal grew stronger, clearer. It wasn't just human. It carried an Earthfleet identification code that hadn't been used in over 300 years. The crew exchanged uneasy glances. Some felt excitement, others fear. Commander Thale gave the order. Track it. Do not alert the council yet. Until we know more, this stays between us. Hours passed. The signal moved slowly, as if the ship was taking its time, drifting deeper into the zone. Outside the station's thick windows, the black void shimmered faintly with strange lights, a reminder that the zone was watching too, in the stations. Mess hall, whispers began to spread. A lone human ship inside the zone? Was it lost? Was it on a secret mission? Some joked that humans were too stubborn to die. Others feared they had brought something back with them. Back in the command center, the long-range scanners picked up a shape emerging from the darkness. It was huge, but its outline was unlike any alien design. The hull was scarred old, yet still carried the proud lines of Terran engineering. The name barely visible on the side, SS Valiant. Valiant, Thale murmured. I've read about her. She disappeared during the Rim Wars. He turned to his crew. Record everything. No one will believe this unless we have proof. The ship drifted closer to the zone's edge. Its lights flickered, as if struggling against the darkness around it. Then, without warning, the comms crackled. A voice came through calm, steady, human. This is Captain Elias Rourke of the HSS. Valiant. To any ship receiving this, do not follow us. The crew stared at each other. Why would a captain warn others away? What was inside the zone that even a human would fear? The signal officer tried to respond, but the message repeated once more, and then the channel went. Silent, the Valiant turned slowly and began moving deeper into the zone, heading straight for the storms. In the far corner of the command deck, one young ensign spoke without thinking. We should warn them. But Thale shook his head. If they've come this far, they know exactly what they're doing. The scanner officer gasped. Commander? There's something else. On the screen, a second reading appeared, moving just behind the Valiant. It was massive, far bigger than the human ship. Its outline was unclear, shifting as if made of shadow. The lights in the station flickered. The signal from the Valiant spiked, and for a brief second, the shadow seemed to turn toward the scanners, as if it knew it was being watched. Then the image vanished, leaving only static. The command center was silent once more, but this time the silence felt heavy, as if the entire station was holding its breath. Somewhere inside the Forbidden Zone, a lone human ship had just been swallowed by darkness. and something was following. The ship no one believed, and the news should have stayed locked inside the station. But secrets like this never stayed buried. Within a day, whispers raced across the outer colonies. A lone human ship in the Forbidden Zone? It sounded like a drunk miner's tale. On trade hubs and deep space forums, some laughed, calling it an obvious fake. Others claimed they'd seen the same ship in ghost stories, appearing out of nowhere and vanishing again. Old soldiers told tales about the Valiant, how it had gone missing during the Rim Wars, carrying weapons humanity never admitted existed. In the council chambers, the reaction was colder. Counselors argued in hushed voices. Some wanted to send warships to intercept. Others demanded silence, fearing panic. A few even suggested destroying the Valiant before it could leave the zone. Meanwhile, the listening station kept watching. The Valiant moved slowly, as if scanning its surroundings. Its path was deliberate, passing through dead zones of silence and pockets of strange blue light that twisted space. Commander Thale kept his crew focused. No interference, no signals sent. We watch and we learn. But deep inside, he wondered if they were watching the beginning of something far bigger than they understood. Suddenly, the Valiant's course shifted. It moved toward an uncharted sector, one marked on ancient maps as a graveyard. The scanners picked up drifting hulks wrecks of ships from dozens of species, their hulls torn open, their energy cores long dead. The crew stared at the feed. Some wrecks were so ancient they predated the council itself, and yet the Valiant moved through them as if it knew exactly where to go. The comms crackled again. This time the message was short, heavy with warning. Do not follow. Then silence. Before they could react, the probe they had sent to shadow the Valiant transmitted a single frozen image, a glimpse of something enormous moving in the void behind the human ship. Its shape was wrong, too fluid for metal, too massive for any living creature they knew. The image distorted, the probe signal breaking into static. Then, nothing. The crew looked at Thale, waiting for orders, but the commander just stared. At the dead screen, his voice was low when he finally spoke. We're not alone in there, and whatever's following them isn't friendly. Far away, in hidden corners of the galaxy, powerful factions began to take notice. Some saw opportunity, others saw a threat. But one thing united them all. They needed to know why a human ship had dared to enter the zone, and what it had awoken. Asterisk, asterisk. Whispers of the past. The signal of the Valiant faded in and out, but it never vanished completely, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Across the galaxy, debates grew louder. Some claimed it was a hoax spread by smugglers. Others swore this was proof that humans still walked paths no one else dared. On the Council's secure channel, an unexpected face appeared, a retired warlord named Sarek Varn. His voice was slow, rough like stone. I fought beside humans once, he said. If that ship is truly the Valiant, you'd better hope they're not running from something worse. Back inside the Forbidden Zone, the Valiant glided through an ocean of wreckage. Halls of forgotten empires floated like bones, strange lights pulsing faintly from within their shattered frames. The human crew moved with precision, every course change calculated. In the command deck of the Valiant, Captain Elias Rourke studied a glowing map projected over the table. His first officer, a woman with sharp eyes and a sharper tone, spoke quietly. We're close, but the scans say it's buried under a storm. Rourke's gaze hardened. We go in anyway. It cannot fall into alien hands. The storm ahead was unlike anything seen before. It wasn't just energy. Was time itself, bending and stretching? The Valiant's hull groaned as it pushed forward. Every sensor screamed in warning, but the humans pressed on. Back at the listening station, Commander Thale watched in disbelief as the human ships signal passed through the storm without slowing. They're walking through hell like it's nothing, one officer muttered. Then the scanners revealed something impossible. Hidden in the storm was a colossal structure, its surface black as obsidian and marked with symbols no one could read. It was older than the zone itself, older than any known species. Inside the Valiant, Rourke stood from his chair. "We've found it," he said. His crew fell silent. Each one knew that whatever this was, it wasn't just a relic. It was a key. A deep, resonating hum filled the ship as the structure came alive. Lights flickered along its edges, reaching out toward the Valiant. It was not a welcome. It was a scan, and far beyond, in the dark currents of the zone, the shadow following them shifted. Closer, drawn by the awakening asterisk. The Watchers, the black structure loomed like a sleeping god. Its surface drank in light, its edges too sharp for the eye to follow. The Valiant drifted closer, its engines whisper quiet. Every crew member felt the weight in the air, as if the ship itself knew it had crossed a line. Without warning, lines of pale light rippled across the structure. Each being swept over the Valiant, scanning every bolt, every breath of its crew. It was not a welcome, it was a judgment. On the listening station, alarms flared, energy readings from the zone exploded. Off the scale, Commander Thale's eyes locked on the numbers. This could power the entire Council fleet for centuries, he whispered, far from the station, in the grand hall of the Galactic Council. Panic was already taking root. Holographic images of the Valiant and the structure lit up the chamber. Factions shouted over each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others wanted to send envoys. A few whispered of seizing whatever the humans had found before it could be used. Inside the Valiant, Captain Rourke stood at the center console. "There, watching us," he said quietly. His first officer asked the question no one wanted to hear. "Who's they?" The answer came not from him, but from the deep vibration that rolled through the hall. The comms sparked to life, and a voice ancient, layered, and not human spoke a single phrase. "The lock has been disturbed." The crew froze. But the captain didn't flinch. "Begin the sequence," he ordered. A small sphere was placed into the main interface, glowing with the same strange energy as the structure. Back at the council, one of the elder members leaned toward the others, his voice trembling. "If the lock is broken, nothing will hold them back." His words were met with silence, the kind that comes only when every mind in the room understands the same terrible truth. The zone itself began to change. Storms shifted, currents of dark matter spun like whirlpools, and in the far reaches, the shadow that had been following the Valiant moved faster. Cliffhanger. The last thing the scanners showed before cutting out was the Valiant and the massive structure, vanishing together in a flash of blinding light, leaving only empty space where they had been. The return no one expected. 3 weeks passed without a trace of the Valiant. The galaxy slowly began to breathe again, convincing itself the human ship had been swallowed by the zone like all the others. But then, on a quiet patrol shift along the outer rim, a lone scout vessel caught a reading one that froze its crew in place. The signal was human. It was the Valiant. And it wasn't crawling out of the zone. It was exploding out, moving faster than any known drive should allow. The ship's hull glimmered with a strange energy shield that bent light around it. Inside that shimmering barrier, shadows flickered shapes too large and too twisted to be part of the ship itself. The patrol hailed them, but only static replied. Then the Valiant broadcast to every open frequency, its captain's voice steady but urgent. "To all vessels, do not approach, do not fire. Follow our vector if you wish to live." Across the galaxy, warships scrambled to intercept, some to aid, some to attack. They fired, but every bolt and missile dissolved against the Valiant's shield like water against stone. The human ship never slowed. Its engines burned with a light that no alien reactor had ever produced. Behind it, the space began to tear. A jagged wound opened in the void, growing wider with every passing second. Through it came a deep, low vibration that rattled hulls light years away, and then a shape began to emerge. It was vast, far larger than any station or capital ship. Its surface writhed like liquid shadow, its outline shifting as if it refused to be fully seen. Even the most hardened fleet commanders felt the cold crawl of fear. In their bones, the Valiant sent one last message before cutting comms entirely. "You've opened the gate. We can't close it now, asterisk." The gate opens the tier in space split wider. Light and shadow poured out in equal measure, twisting reality around it. Stars near the rift flickered and bent as if they were being pulled toward some unseen abyss. The shape emerging was no ordinary ship. It was alive, but its body was made of something darker than metal. Waves of cold energy rolled off it, each pulse strong enough to disrupt nearby systems. The alien fleets that had come to stop the Valiant now found themselves turning away from the humans, not to fight them, but to run. But the Valiant did not run. Captain Rourke stood at the center of his bridge, hands steady on the command rail. He opened a channel to every ship within range. "If you want to live, follow our lead, keep your weapons charged, fire when I say." The alien commanders hesitated. For generations, their governments had mocked humanity. Now those same governments waited for a human's orders. The entity fully stepped through the rift. Its size made moons look small. Its many limbs moved with slow, deliberate grace where it touched space. Reality rippled like water. A sound began to vibrate through every hull, a deep hum that felt more like a voice inside the skull than in the ears. The Valiant's new weapons lit up. Long spears of blue-white energy crackled along the hull. The captain gave the order, and the first volley tore through the void. Striking the creature's leading limbs, it recoiled, but not in pain, more like curiosity. Then it turned toward the fleets. Every ship in range felt its gaze. Shields weakened, power levels dropped. One alien battleship broke formation and tried to flee. The creature's limb reached out, and the ship was simply gone. The Valiant swung around, placing itself between the entity and the rest of the fleet. Rourke's voice came through once more, calm and cold. "We can't kill it, but we can push it back if you trust us." Asterisk humanity's gamble the Valiants. Bridge was a storm of flashing lights and warning alarms. The entity loomed larger now, its vast form blotting out the stars. Every moment it remained outside the rift, the tier in space widened. If it broke free completely, no fleet in the galaxy could stop it. Captain Rourke stood still, his gaze locked on the tactical display. His first officer's voice was tight. "We're not pushing it back enough. It's adapting." Rourke didn't answer right away. Then he spoke, low and steady. "We're not here to destroy it. We're here to lock it away." Gasps rippled through the crew. The Valiant's engineer turned from his console. "You mean the lock?" Rourke nodded. "The structure wasn't a weapon. It was the key to a prison. We opened it, and now we have to close it. The plan was simple in words, but fatal in truth. The lock could only be triggered from within the zone. Someone had to go back through the rift and set it off manually. And when it went off, nothing inside would survive. There was no hesitation from the crew. One by one, they confirmed their stations. No one asked for an escape route. The galaxy would live because they would not. The Valiant surged forward, its engines roaring with stolen energy from the lock. Alien ships cleared a path, their commanders silent as the human vessel dove straight into the rift. The entity sensed the danger and lunged. Its limbs closed around the Valiant, crushing its outer hull. But the humans didn't slow. Inside the lock's shadow, the Valiant fired its final volley. The energy spears sank into the ancient structure. A blinding wave of light burst outward, ripping across the zone. The rift folded in on itself, dragging the entity back into the prison between stars. When the light faded, the forbidden zone was silent again. No sign of the Valiant remained, only a faint signal repeating every hour across all known frequencies. 3 short bursts, 1 long, 2 short Morse code for a single word. Watching, and across the galaxy, those who heard it knew humanity was gone from the zone, but not from the shadows. Asterisk.